Hey guys, welcome back to AP. So last week we did the stucco on our little farmhouse. This week we're going to do all the little details. Now, as we get through the video, there's a lot of stuff that I skip, and that's mostly just the painting, and that's because I feel like we all do the same things. Some of us are better than others when it comes to these kind of painting techniques, but don't worry, I am not in that top tier for painting. Average is what I would say. Enough talk. Let's head to the table and I'll show you guys how I finished up this tiny little farmhouse. Alright guys, so first things first, you need a little bit of tacky glue. Scratch that, you're gonna need a lot of tacky glue. And some XPS shingles. These are 1/2-inch tiles that I just cut out in strips by hand, textured them with a wire brush, and just randomly cut out shapes. I'm not a fan of Proxon, and this is why, because random shapes like this and random thicknesses really adds a lot to the piece, in my opinion. Now, once the shingles were all put on, I needed to hide the edges. I just cut out some more XPS, tried to stay within the same thickness of the beams that I used on the house, put on some wood grain, glued them on, pinned them into place. Now, once we had those beams put up there and everything was setting and we're waiting for it to dry before we can start painting, I needed to make a chimney stack. And I didn't really have anything except for these wall anchors. And that was gonna do. That would be good enough for what I needed. I just cut off the very bottom portion, which was a perfect circle. Had to sand it a little bit to get rid of some of the manufacturing numbers and whatnot, and then just glued it into place. Now, we couldn't forget about the windows. I needed to take some granny grating, cut it into the right shape and size, and then just super glued them in order to hide the inside of the building, because as you can tell, I didn't do anything with the inside of the building. I just took some chipboard, painted it black, glued it in behind it. Now, this was a fun part. Go out to the yard, pick a stick, any stick. Well, not any stick. You don't want it to be too thick. Cut them into little 1/2-inch, 1/4-inch sections. A best way that I noticed to reference the size for firewood is to hold up a mini and go from shoulder to shoulder. That's a good length, because that's usually the same length that real people cut real firewood. Gluing it into place was a pain in the butt. I probably did this the wrong way, but whatever. I used a lot of tacky glue and a lot of super glue to get this to stay where it is, but it worked and it looks fantastic. Side note, take some of the sticks and don't cut them. Leave one whole one, or one that's just split in half. You'll see what I mean at the end of the video. Now that we have our awesome looking firewood set on the side of the house, can't very well have a stack of firewood without having a firewood cutting axe, right? Okay, so toothpick, shave it down, thin it out, and then what are we gonna do? We're gonna take some green stuff. Take some green stuff, shape a really crappy looking axe, which we'll fix later once it cures. And since we have our green stuff out, we might as well make some other things. I went with a bird's nest because I thought the roof needed just a little bit something else to add to visually. So take your green stuff, shape it into a nest of sorts. Nests are not usually round, they're oblong, so if you can't get a circle, perfect. Put your tiny little nest where you want it. Take some sculpting tools, push it around, give it some texture, and then let that stuff dry for a good day. Last but not least, I needed to do something with the chimney. And that was because the chimney was it was too boring. I needed something else. So I took some hemp string, broke it down into its tiny sections, and laid out some wax paper, painted it green, and then began the painstaking task of gluing it onto the chimney. Now, I get in the way quite a bit on this one for the camera, but it really wasn't that difficult to get this to glue down. The super glue bonds almost immediately, so be careful with that. But if you have some little tools, sculpting tools, maybe some tweezers or something like that, that'll really help you out in a situation like this, because you don't want your fingers getting stuck to your chimney and to your vines. Now, once the vines were all in place, super glue leaves a weird residue when it dries, and we needed to fix that. It didn't look right, so I went back in with some gray and touched up the stone around the vines just to clear up that weird film that super glue leaves. Now that that's all dry and it's finally ready for a little bit more detail. Now what I did here was I took some PVA glue, mixed it with some flocking, and then painted on some other PVA glue and just started putting the flocking where I thought it would look cool, sticking mostly to the ends of the vine. I also created a few branches of that vine off of the string where there was no string. You're not really going to notice or tell that there's no string there. One thing that I didn't show in this, and that's because I got a little ahead of myself, was I did take just a little bit of my red flocking and also some of my other colored flocking, which is like an earth blend or something, and put it on there just for a little bit of variance in color, which definitely need to do that, because this really brought those vines back out to where you could actually see it. It didn't look so bland and macabre with one just one particular color. Okay guys, that is it. All of the details on this are done. Like I said, I don't go over my painting process, and that's because I feel like everybody does the same thing. However, if you have any questions and would like to know how I did a particular part of this video, leave a comment down there. I would be glad to help you out. I do all this stuff to help anybody who needs help learning how to do these things. So just leave a comment down there and I'll get to you, help you out with that. As always, if you guys enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. There's tons of videos on my channel of just random things that I build. And I'm not going anywhere. I'm just gonna keep doing this. So keep your eyes open. But anyways, thanks to my Patreon supporters. You guys give me just that little bit of push that I need to do this every week. So thank you for that. As always, guys, we'll see you this time next week.